whether most of us realize it or not, we are in serious danger. I read recently that groups of teachers are planning a rally on May 1st of this year in various parts of the country. My first thought was, does anyone else really understand the dangerous waters that are about to flood our nation and drown us all? It is more than obvious that education means little or nothing to people who are in charge of the security and maintenance of this most valuable asset. Why should teachers have to rally and or strike for higher wages, better working conditions, and desperately needed supplies? This is a horrible disgrace, to say the least. Former South African President Nelson Mandela is quoted as saying that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I suppose then that if we are to change the world, we need to begin by replacing all elected officials who are blocking desperately needed changes for the advance of education in this country. Teaching is a calling. You don't just wake up one morning and decide that you're going to teach. This special calling is evident in the chosen ones who can readily discern a spark in a child and fan that spark until it becomes a flame, thus igniting the burning desire within that child to use what God has placed in him or her to advance humanity. Brad Henry is quoted as saying, "A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning." That good teacher that Mr. Henry is referring to is the one whom God has called and anointed to breathe new life into children and inspire them to offer the best that is in them. Why then are we struggling to nurture, preserve, and advance our greatest natural resource, our children? Failure to properly educate our children dooms us to be overtaken by whoever decides to invade our nation. I know we readily boast of being a, quote, military power. I can only speak for me, but I dread having my safety and well-being in the hands of persons who have difficulty operating high-tech weaponry due to their lack of mastery of simple reading, writing, and arithmetic. I only dread that because consider the danger that you would be in if someone had no idea how to operate any kind of weaponry that's supposed to protect this country. Only called, dedicated, and well-compensated teachers can remedy this dilemma. These called warriors are being forced to leave their assignments in order to earn a decent living. This is the same dilemma that Nehemiah faced when he was commissioned to restore proper order to the house of God, which was also being neglected. The called teachers that we are losing are being replaced, for want of a better word, by drug dealers and pedophiles in many situations. What moron among us has a problem seeing the horror in that fact? Many politicians run on a platform of religious hoopla, but are only appealing to liars who, like themselves, don't even know who God is. These politicians will declare their support for the, quote, anti-abortion movement, while at the same time will sentence a child to death by creating stifling legislation that suppresses and oppresses the very people whom God has called to help that child reach his or her fullest potential. These politicians and those who support them are spiritual idiots who never knew God. They claim to be Christians, but have no idea who Jesus is. If they really knew Jesus, we wouldn't even be having this stress-filled conversation. There is a national movement to, quote, raise the minimum wage to $15 per hour. Consider this. If a first-year certified teacher was paid $15 per hour, considering real teachers work approximately 9 hours per day at school and an additional preparatory 3 hours at home before and after school, that teacher would earn $180 per day, $900 per week, $3,600 per month, and for 10 months, that adds up to $36,000 per year before taxes. If the salary for a first-year certified teacher is nearly $31,000 per year, that may sound extremely low, but that is the case in many states in this country. That means that a college-trained adult who spent $60,000 to $80,000 plus for a 4-year degree is earning less per hour than a high school dropout who is earning minimum wage. What fool among us sees any equity or rationale in such a miserably sick and crippled system? Given the cost of living in most states in this country, the salary for a first-year certified teacher should be no less than $45,000 per year. You pay for what you get. We want good doctors, good lawyers, good auto mechanics. Why? Because we care somewhat about our health. We want adequate representation when we have legal issues, and we want to be able to drive our cars without multiple breakdowns and repairs to those cars at a reasonable price. Why do we have a problem with funding education? We, at the same time, in our desire to have good doctors, good lawyers, good auto mechanics, don't want to hire and retain good God-called teachers who have the gift of nurturing and encouraging a child to give the best that is in them. I hope that as we consider these things, that we want to make sure that we make ourselves a committee of one to doing everything that we can to advance education in this country. Our lives depend on it. Just another Mackian observation. Thank you for listening.